I'm Mark Howley, Mr. Saltwater Tank, and this is Mr. Saltwater Tank TV. This is part 2 of my 1,000-gallon reef build. So if you missed part 1, go back and watch it. That way part 2 makes more sense. Now, thanks everyone. Welcome me back to YouTube. It's nice to know that you're missed. And here's the thing, I didn't actually leave YouTube. I just went over to saltwateraquarium.com's YouTube channel, launched it for them, and grew their followings. I've done all kinds of videos there, from trade show coverage to running a saltwater tank on a budget to getting my cameraman Jimmy into the saltwater tank hobby and taking him through all the steps of learning a saltwater tank. We've done about a year worth of those episodes now. So look, done about 5 years worth of content over there. Been on YouTube. If you didn't know I was over there, go check it out. Still gonna be making videos at saltwateraquarium.com unless I get fired. And I'm gonna be making videos over here on my channel as well. So with that being said, back to the build. With the addition framed, it was time to knock out a wall. Voila, more space. Here's where the old bonus room stopped, and the new tank is going to fit right here, and my new office will be on the other side of the tank. At this point, the house was several months away from being able to receive the tank, so it was time to get the tank on order. What was I going to get? A drop-down tank. After building one for a client, I wanted one of my own. Now I called my go-to tank builder, and the name I trust the most in tanks, Planet Aquariums. They've built several drop-downs, and yes, it's going to be made of glass. But what dimensions? 10 feet long, 4 feet wide, 30 inches tall on the upper part of the tank, and 48 inches tall on the lower part of the drop-off. By having a tank 10 feet long, that'll make plenty of room from the end of the tank to this wall to walk through to get in and out of my office. And then somebody made a mistake. When the glass came back from the glass cutter, Planet Aquarium's quality team checked it and they said, nope, this isn't up to our spec. I said, hold everything. This is an opportunity and I get to go bigger. Let's make the tank 12 feet long. One thing that I've always said is you get your tank in the first day, you're like, wow, this is big. Within 6 months, you're gonna be like, I should have gone bigger. It's not really that big anymore. So I followed my own advice and I made the tank 12 feet long. So final dimensions, 12 feet long, 4 feet wide, 30 inches tall in the upper part of the drop-off, and then 48 inches deep in the lower part of the drop-off. Comes out to about 987 gallons, which look, 1,000 gallons, close enough. As I waited for the tank to be built, I wanted to finalize my fish room design as I'd been bouncing ideas in my head for a while. Here's what made the list for things that I knew I wanted. A dedicated sink. No way I was going to walk back into the house and use the kitchen sink for anything fish related. Storage space. No one complains when they have too much storage space. Only not enough. Enough water change storage to meet my 20% water change rule. Separate climate control from the rest of the house. I wanted complete temperature control for this room, independent of what was going on in the rest of the home. Large windows because the fish room faced west. That meant I could do a sunlit powered refugium. Since this fish room window faces west, it gets direct afternoon sun right into the fish room, and that sun's going to land right on the other side of the fish room where I was planning on putting the refugium. But after watching the sun move across the fish room for an afternoon, it was clear this wasn't going to work. The refugium didn't get enough direct sunlight for long enough to make it worthwhile. So I said, hey, I've got to light the refugium with artificial light anyway. Let's move it up the wall, hang it off the ceiling. I've done that before with builds, no problems. Now that I have the space, it was time for a frag tank. Now I had the space, so let's add a frag tank in to accommodate aquaculture and corals. The sump. If you follow me long enough, you know something is missing from the sump design. A skimmer. I nearly always put a skimmer in the sump, as an internal skimmer makes for a very simple design, and I like to keep things as simple as I can. But putting the skimmer in the sump would mean that the sump would have to be much longer to accommodate the skimmer. And then I couldn't store much underneath the sump. I needed to free up some space, so I decided to give an external skimmer a try. The skimmer would sit on a floating shelf to leave plenty of room for a calcium reactor, which I knew was going to be in my tank's future. After loving the raised and drained floor in my old fish room, I decided to reuse the flooring to raise and drain the new fish room floor. No standing on a wet or even damp floor for me. So the floor was handled, but what about the walls? FRP on the walls? No. Drywall? No. PVC walls? Aha! That's what I was looking for. Installs very easily. In fact, I did the work myself. You can wipe it down because it's plastic. You can spray it down if you want. You can totally sterilize it. Love this product. Put it in my fish room. Made for a great look. So now that the fish room was designed, and I had the walls up so I could start moving stuff in there, I had to think about how am I going to get a 1,000-gallon drop-off tank onto the second story of my house. Because here's the thing about drop-off tanks. They're built on the stand, and they have to live their whole life on the stand because you can't just take them off and set it down, put it back on the stand because that would break it. So the stand and the tank are built as a system. They live their whole life as a system. I had to get that through the window right over there so it could end up here behind me. How do you do that? With a crane, of course. Why not? No tank build is really complete until you use a crane. And the thing about crane days are, they're actually pretty easy. You go, I want that up there, and then you just sit back and watch.